Okay, we're going to ask you to think inside the box. In other words, we're going to ask you to look at playing pendulum swing rather than a basic swing. A pendulum swing is a more narrow swing down the floorboard off a nice structured body, and there's less effort required to actually play high quality full power shots with complete control. So it's joints, it's body work, it's all sorts of things where the benefits are, and we believe pendulum swing is the way to go. Okay, we're going to take a look at drop of racket. Now you see I've got a couple of lines on the screen, one pink one, one green one, and that follows your wrist, where your wrist drives. You see I've got the same preparation. In other words, the same type of swing. My wrist starts around about my shoulder. So what that means is racket is around about here, around about in line with shoulder, and racket is around about in line with shoulder. So these are not dissimilar at all. And what happens is, if you see the height difference, though, this one's up here and this one is down here. Now what the height does is allows drive down to the floor. So it's that you accelerate your racket speed, or your arm speed if you like, through the down to the floor rather than pushing away out behind you. So what happens is gravity is working for you when you actually drive down. So if I keep relatively close and drive down this way versus driving out that way, then what happens is I get gravity really helping me out big time. Now it's not a lot, but it really works really well because it works off a really strong base. So it works off a really strong base here, so I'm pushing down straight into the direction of my feet, which is full balance. This other one, you're pushing away, so you're pushing out away from where you're most stable. So you're most stable around here, and you're pushing out away from that, so you're pushing away from your body. So the drop of racket is significant, and it makes a big difference to the ability to put cut on the ball. So what happens is drop of racket gives cut. So when you get cut, you get kill, and it works really, really well. So you see the wrist height is really significant, and it makes a big difference. If I put a line on the screen, oops, I'll use the arrow, it's fine. The camera's in the same spot. I'm striking around about the same position. In other words, the ball's in around about the same position, the same height. And what that means is that the height difference that we're going to talk about between here and here is significant for drop of racket. And even if you want to talk about the height difference between strike of wrist and strike of wrist, is significant as well. So it's the cut that does the work. So cut adds kill to the ball, it adds control to the ball, and it's pretty cool. So it works really well. There's different ways as you get more advanced to get cut into the ball, into your swing and everything, but that's for another video. But at this stage of the game, we're looking at the height of strike, and the drop of racket, and the way we actually put cut on the ball. So it works really, really quite well. So we follow that through, and we watch how the drop of wrist follows that line. So the drop of basically followed the wrist through to point of impact, and after that you then have follow through. So we go from here, and the follow through happens, and we go from there. So it's a pretty cool thing. It works really, really well. Next we're going to look at the height of strike. If we go through to strike, so we go right through to here. Okay, so height of strike, if we put a couple of lines on the screen, if I go from front foot, and that's roughly a good grounding of where the ground is. In other words, I'm striking the ball in between my 2 feet on the pendulum swing, and striking the ball level with my front foot on the base swing. So then if we go and put another couple of lines on strike height, even if I can almost basically just run it straight through. So they're virtually struck at the same height. So this is not comparing two shots that are completely different. So the ball is not struck lower on one shot, it's not struck higher on the other. They're virtually almost the same, in that they're pretty good to compare as to what it does to your body, which is the next big one, and that's the one we're really going to go through and understand the benefits of what it's all about, and how things really work for you when you use a pendulum swing. It's how much work you actually put into the swing. So the strike height was pretty much the same. So the strike's the same, the setup's the same, the position's all the same. So we're comparing apples with apples as far as choice of swing goes. So it's pretty cool. So we're going to look at body work. Now, this is point of impact, point of strike. And so if I go and put some lines on the screen, the ones that matter, these lines here. So it's there to here, and these lines here. So the rate of work on each part of your body is significant. And then if I change the color and I go here, 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 and you can even do this one if you like, which is pretty simple. Alright, so what you notice is that everything is much more upright. So things, you're standing more upright through here. So right through here, everything is more upright. Right from here, if I go and put a line roughly, say from the middle of my body where my 100% full balance is, that whole line is across there. That means the stability and the ability to hit off a foundation is fantastic on a pendulum swing. So it's really quite great for energy usage, and the control and everything you get from this is pretty phenomenal. You've got even weight distributed over both feet, so even weight distributed over here. This one, most of your weight's on your front leg with your back leg just touching. So that's how that one holds up. There's a lot more balance. So I could put a line through here from head to this foot, and that's more where the balance is for that one. Whereas this one would say, let's say it's even through to body. So they're not dissimilar in the angle of line of body, of head. In other words, controlling of your body for position of head to ball. So you're basically saying, what I'm saying is that you're doing so much more body work on the basic swing. So you see how much you're getting down low, how much you're working through your body, and how much work it is. And what that does is it puts a lot of work right through here, through your lower back. So there's a lot more effort put in through your lower back, whereas the one where you stand up is a lot more stable and a lot more capable. So I'll go back and just run through this one. So I've got left a skeleton on there. So you'll see that the position from a stand-up straight to a strike is very minimal. So for the pendulum swing preparations are happen really quick. The other swing, the base swing preparations, can take a fair while to get there and be quite cumbersome amount of effort and work. Come through to strike, the yellow is the racket, and then we swing through, we come up, and we finish out to around about there. So when we finish, what you notice is the upright position hasn't changed much, and so what that means, upright position here, and this other side, what happens is across here, it still hasn't really risen much, which means the recovery from your shot is going to be quite quick. So that means I'm already up, so I'll go up to dead straight here, and yet to get up to level and straight, it'll be somewhere around about here. You have to come back onto your back foot and everything, whereas all my weight basically will be recovering really, really quick. So it happens really simple. Okay, so we're going to ask you to think inside the box. In other words, try and keep your whole swing, your whole, let's say, prep swing and striking swing, right through to follow through, relatively shallow. In other words, don't push it out wide. You stand up taller and drop your wrist. What we're asking you to do mostly here is to drop your wrist. Now the reason this works is because your racket head will basically come down more of a straight line. So you'll basically get this racket head will come down through this way versus coming down through this way, and so it makes a massive difference as to what the outcomes will be in the cut ball. So when we come through, there's the point of impact, we come through and then we finish up. So the box that I've drawn is to the final racket head. So basically what happens, it's short and fat versus tall and skinny. So the tall and skinny swing is more a pendulum swing, which means the racket or the swing goes down the floorboard more. So when you go down the floorboard, what happens is you get a more accurate hit, and you can impart cut and slice by pushing down to the floor, and it's pretty good. It's really good for your body. Everything works fantastically. So to recap on all, okay, so what we're asking you to do is to use less energy. In other words, choose to use the pendulum swing wherever possible. over the basic swing. Now, let's say you have 500 hits per match, and if you can use just a fraction less energy every single time you strike the ball, imagine how much energy you save and how much work on your body you save, how much work on your joints you save. You see the knees are just not taking the same stress. They're up and stable and strong. Your back's not taking the same stress. That's up and stable and strong. And so everything, your recovery is quicker. You're in a better position faster when you come off the ball. So there's a fair bit in it for a pendulum swing. There's so many benefits. You see the power is really low, strong, great capable versus a higher, fatter hit because the racket gets pushed towards the front wall. It's swinging down the floorboard, keeping a narrow swing and keep your swing within the box. In other words, think inside the box, think about the narrow box and keep your swing inside that box, and that will make a massive difference to the quality of your hit and the amount of energy use per hit. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it.